Good afternoon and welcome back. I'm Marcus Peter. As you all know, the FIFA World Cup is going on right now, and one of the forward players for the Belgian team, his name is Jérémy Doku, he temporarily left the World Cup tournament it was so that he could be present for the birth of his first child. This was on June the 22nd. His son was given the name Praise. Now, Doku then returned to the Belgium squad ahead of its next fixture. But what followed, unfortunately, was an entirely, I would say baffling, but I guess some people will call it predictable, explosion against him. We're in a culture that increasingly doesn't honor the distinction between a profession and a vocation, and therefore a game and a family. The remarkable aspect of this story is that there was a debate at all. The remarkable aspect is that anyone thought a debate and discussion was even necessary. I mean, here's a young husband who wanted to stand beside his bride while she labored to bring their child into the world. He's a committed husband and father. But somehow, that's a matter for public journalistic controversy. I mean, football or soccer supporters discussed it, television presenters discussed it, journalists wrote scathingly against it, social media commentators raked him over the coals, and eventually a French presenter on L'Equipe faced such intense criticism because she went on the air to attack Doku's decision, rather revulsively I might add, that thankfully that journalists publicly apologized, but the apology was the least surprising development in the entire affair. That journalist was suspended. For the record, I'm going to say this plainly. Nothing in my professional life would keep me from standing beside my bride during the birth of one of our children. I mean this. No talk, no speech, television appearance, conference, radio program, publishing deadline, no audience. I would do all of that ahead of time if I could, but nothing would stop me from being beside my child during the birth of our being beside my bride during the birth of our child. And frankly, any employer who demands otherwise would actually reveal a profoundly distorted hierarchy of values. And thank the Lord that within the church, we actually honor marriage and the family. I mean, childbirth is one of the few events in human existence that permanently changes every person involved. A football match or a soccer match ends after 90 minutes, and a little more if you go into overtime. A championship becomes a statistic in an archive. In about 2 years, no one is going to remember the intricacies of every match in this World Cup. They'll probably remember the champion, and that's it. Trophies gather dust, but a child remains your son or daughter, not only in this lifetime, but mind you, because of your yes to the Lord, that child is going to live on into eternity forever. That child has an eternal destiny now. And historically, that truth would have been self-evident. Across civilizations, childbirth occupied a sacred place within the life of families and communities. People understood that they were witnessing something greater than a mere biological event and transaction. They were witnessing the arrival of an immortal soul into history, and they revered it accordingly. They were participating in a mystery that touched in their minds heaven and earth at once. The problem is our modern society increasingly struggles to understand that. Robbie Davis Floyd, he's an anthropologist, he observed modern childbirth practices frequently reflect what she calls a technocratic worldview. Technology and the institution are the dominant cultural values, and so she argues, when birth becomes treated primarily through the lens of machinery and management, the society begins communicating distrust toward both nature and the human body. This is in her book, Birth is an American Rite of Passage. That observation is crucial for us to remember because a civilization becomes what it reveres, and it also becomes what it disdains. When efficiency and medical technocratic efficiency becomes the supreme value, then every human activity becomes evaluated according to that productivity. Every relationship becomes measured through utility in this sense. And every sacrifice becomes judged through, in this case, economic output. Under these assumptions, a husband remaining at a football tournament or soccer tournament while his bride gave birth is the more reasonable thing to do, rather than rushing to her side, which to me is ludicrous. That sentence alone reveals the problem. Ina May Gaskin similarly argues that contemporary cultures have increasingly disconnected birth from its spiritual significance and communal meaning. She writes that modern society often treats birth as a technical obstacle, not a sacred event, and thereby what it does is it alienates itself from its own physiological wisdom. This is in Ina May's Guide to Childbirth. And so, one need only examine the public conversation surrounding Jérémy Doku to see this dynamic in action. Many commentators never discussed fatherhood or husbandhood, or marriage, or the dignity and sanctity of the union in marriage and the family. Many commentators didn't discuss even the emotional and spiritual significance of him being there by his bride's side at his first child's birth, and to watch his child draw his first breath. Instead, the entire conversation revolved around the fact that he had to play for a team and his availability. Team obligations apparently dominated the discussion. Tournament schedules dominated the discussion. Professional responsibility apparently dominated the discussion. The child himself was not even factored, almost secondary to the equation, which to me is baffling. But it's an uncomfortable cultural tendency we have. We talk about human beings through institutional categories. We don't think of them as dignified individuals anymore. Workers, employees, performers, athletes, consumers, demographic groups, economic units. We don't talk about fatherhood and motherhood the same way anymore. Suzanne Arms diagnosed this tendency in her book Immaculate Deception. So it's in 1975, mind you. She warned that societies obsessed with efficiency eventually strip awe from childbirth itself, that such cultures begin valuing outcomes and productivity, and disregard the profound transformation experienced by the mother and the father who welcome the child into, in this case, their external existence. So yes, the soccer world can cry and bemoan this. But know this, while the soccer world believes that athletes exist for their entertainment consumption, they are human beings, bearers of the divine image. They will be held to moral accountability before the judgment seat of Jesus Christ himself. So surprise and shocker, my friends, Jérémy Doku was a Christian, is a Christian. And so he is doing what a Christian husband and father ought to do. His hierarchy of priorities is right on point. It doesn't matter if the fans have purchased tickets or the broadcasters have purchased broadcasting rights. People cannot imagine athletes as products. We don't have uninterrupted access to them because they're human beings. Doku's decision has exposed the way we live. And so the deeper decision here, or the deeper issue here, I should say, is that it has very little to do with the game itself, the game of soccer itself. It is that the church has been the only voice consistently defending the dignity of family life. Fathers are called to sacrificial leadership. Mothers deserve honor and support, and that's why children deserve welcome and protection. Jérémy Doku missed, if I'm reading this correctly, I think he missed one football match, but he witnessed the birth of his son. He was there for the birth of his son. It's only, at the end of the day, friends, one of those things will far outweigh the other, and I can tell you, it's not the amount of goals that were scored. When he reaches the end of his life, he will be held to account for the kind of husband and father he is. And so in that sense, Jérémy Doku's decision deserves commendation, despite the onslaught of criticism he's received. He demonstrates something that you and I are not seeing in public life anymore, that certain obligations outweigh professional success. Certain obligations demand our immediate presence. If I may quote Christ here, Jérémy has chosen the better path, and it will not be taken away from him. Because this is the thing that will still matter when he reaches the end of his life. He chose wisely. The question is, will we support a decision like that, and will we do the same? Stay tuned. I'm Marcus Peter.